Counterpoint to the SCOTUS leak. Biden pledges to try to enshrine Roe into law if court strikes down landmark ruling. This is from Bloomberg by Jenny Leonard. And this basically takes us from, we talked about the history, we talked about the potential consequences, and now we're going to talk about where do we go from here? What can we do about this? So I want to hear everything that you all have to say. Where do we go with something like this?
So Biden did push the Senate to actually do a vote. I believe the vote as of this recording was done today. However, it was not enough to overturn the filibuster. I believe it was like 51 to 49. Yeah, 51 to 49, if I'm not mistaken. So so unfortunately, we were not able to get a proper vote per se, just to get a simple majority because of, the 60-40 rule that's currently in the Senate right now. So that is unfortunate. However, there are other states in of themselves that are what they call I would call them sanctuary states for abortion. My state is one of them. I believe that one of the articles that is actually there for reading talks about how different governors have responded to the leak from the SCOTUS. Governor Pritzker of Illinois actually stated in one of his addresses that we believe women and we were going to protect them, and has promised that abortion and also reproductive rights will never be overturned in Illinois. Well, I don't know if we can say never, but just like under his watch, right? I believe that there was the Washington state governor pretty much promised to do the same thing as far as like defending abortion and reproductive rights. So that is something that we are seeing in some of the other states, but but it happens to be in the minority because, like, of course, as we were talking about the other trigger laws that were happening in over 20 to 22 plus states, this is not the case. So it's something that we just have to keep in mind as far as like some of the responses. I'm curious, MD Aware or Dr. Hafer, what do you have to say about where do we go from here?
I mean, so I've been reading up a bit on this. And as you alluded to, Cynthia, Roe v. Wade initially came from the 14th Amendment, and specifically having to do with the right to privacy, which I think is kind of funny, because it's not really the point of Roe v. Wade, right? It seems like it was sort of a backdoor way of getting this, of interpreting existing amendments to the Constitution in a way that upheld women's rights and the right to sort of bodily autonomy. If it were, if I were an American politician, I would be pushing for a constitutional amendment that formally recognized the right to bodily autonomy, for instance. I think that that's something that should be explicit, and it's something that, again, we have in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is sort of comparable document. And I think that it's very strange that this right to abortion had to come through this like right to privacy. I don't know why. Like, I think that maybe I'm being naive. I'm sure I'm being naive. I don't know why an amendment to the Constitution that ensured the right to bodily autonomy or enshrined the right to bodily autonomy as a constitutional right. I think that would be difficult to argue against in many cases, because it seems to be a broadly held belief. And I think even pro-life movement would agree with many circumstances outside of abortion where you have right to bodily autonomy, right? And so I think I would approach it from that perspective personally.
It's kind of funny how like we have this whole conversation concerning bodily autonomy, and that is exactly what the same group was saying when they did not want to take a vaccine or wear a mask.
Right. Exactly.
My body, my rights. Weird. Dr. Hafer?
Yeah, well, what I've been thinking for some time is that what we need is a reproductive rights act, similar to the Voting Rights Act back before it got gutted.
Right.
Where basically the states who are the bad actors, who have the record of putting obstacles in place of getting an abortion, basically have to clear their new laws with Congress. So now this, of course, assumes, unfortunately, the right to an abortion. But the point is, if you have that right, which we have for a little while longer, if you have that right, then there should be, as I said, congressional action to actually make sure that that right is practically available. As I said, just like with voting, it does you no good to have the right to vote if you cannot actually vote. If it is restricted in so many ways that it's impossible.
Great point.
If that, failing that, we have to assist women however we can. And I'm going to point out that, this is going to include maybe finding ways of mailing abortion pills to people who cannot have them mailed to them legally. It will include, secret societies providing bus fare if people need to travel out of state. It's going to mean maybe chipping in on legal fees when a woman has a miscarriage. This is something, unfortunately, that I see coming down the road, is that there will be women who actually have miscarriages who will wind up being accused of murder.
Yeah.
And so there are going to be a lot of downstream consequences. And in general, we need to find ways, organized ways of assisting women in whatever way they need it.
Indeed. Ben?
I think one of the most practical ways, like at least adding on to and not overlapping things that other people have said already, but go out there and vote if you're able to vote. Like that includes your local elections. Vote for your judges in your area. Vote for your state officials. Vote for on the federal level. Just vote for all of them, because we get to places like this when people who aren't representing the people have people out there voting for them. Like we know that the majority of people in the U.S. support abortion rights, but the problem is a lot of the problem is the people currently in power do not accurately represent the people, and a lot of them don't care to actually represent the people. So apart from the things that we can't really do as individuals, we can go out there and we can tell them what we want. We can give our votes. And I know that's not an option for everybody. I wish that we had a better infrastructure to where people could have access to voting. That's a whole separate conversation. But if you are able to vote, by all means, you should take advantage of it and do it.
Yeah, and there are other organizations that are actively trying to fight for this on a political level. I know that Freedom from Religion is one of them. Also, the Satanic Temple is one of them as well. And you have a lot of different reproductive rights organizations that are on the front lines that are really working towards making sure that Roe v. Wade is codified in legislation. Actually, the House already passed a bill similar to what you were discussing, Dr. Hafer, back in February of this year. It's just that we just have an issue with the Senate, and a lot of it is because the representation is just not there. And I said this on previous shows, and I'll say it again, that a lot of times a lot of us who happen to be non-believers may look at the like, evangelicals, specifically white evangelicals or Christian nationalists, and just think that these people are just loud, right? Loud and wrong. But they may be loud, they may be wrong, but they're fucking organized. And as I stated previously, the whole thing was about trying to make sure that they were able to get their people in power. And now we're here.